Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell. Bax, there's been some debate recently. I don't think there's really much of a debate in my mind. I think, Michigan is clearly Ohio State's rival, but, maybe you feel differently. Has Penn State now surpassed Michigan as Ohio State's rival? Just where do you come down on who Ohio State's main rival is?
Pride cometh before the fall, you fools. I mean, come on. Who remembers the late 90s where Michigan fans were saying that Michigan State was their biggest rival, not Ohio State, right? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, is Penn State, in theory, a bigger threat in the Big Ten? I would not argue that. But are they a bigger rival? God, no. There's a very big difference between the two. That's like saying Alabama is a bigger threat than Michigan to beat Ohio State for the national title. Well, of course, they're a better football team. They're a better football program. They're run by smarter people. They have better natural resources, such as better in-state recruiting at their advantage than Michigan. So, yes, Penn State, structurally speaking, is the one program in the Big Ten that should be on Ohio State's level every year. That's not news. This is something we've all said for, at least those of us who have paid any attention have said this forever. I remember back at the Paterno days saying, man, when they get a coach who actually can recruit there, who actually leaves campus to recruit, who actually brings in a modern staff, Penn State's going to be scary because high school football in Pennsylvania is awesome, and they're in a unique spot to draw the best kids from New Jersey and Maryland and Virginia and the state of New York. I mean, that's a great school, structurally speaking, to be very good at college football. So now that James Franklin's there, and guess what? He's a good coach. It may have taken him a little bit longer than a lot of us thought to get to where he is now, but he's a good coach. So, yeah, they're a bigger threat to win the Big Ten than a Michigan would be, but they're not a bigger rival. No, there's a complete difference between the quality of the team on the field and the hatred you have for the other helmet. And, Penn State's rival's Pitt. I've been telling Penn State fans that for 20 years. Go play Pitt more. I'm glad they're finally playing Pitt more. Ohio State and Michigan is the rivalry. Pride cometh before the fall. Don't let your pride get in the way here, folks. Michigan is the rival. They always will be the rival. When Rich Wad was their coach, that was the game that made me nervous, even if it was 42-7. So, yeah, Michigan is the bigger rival. It's not a debate, period.
I could not agree more. Let's switch gears and look at some of Ohio State's position groups. We're going to talk about 4 position groups in particular. We're going to talk about the O-line. We're going to talk about the linebackers, running backs, and wide receivers. Start with the O-line. Bax, where's your confidence level on Ohio State's O-line entering the 2018 season?
Oh, geez. I would say out of 10 being the highest, I'm somewhere around a 6.5 to a 7 right now. There's certainly some pieces I like. And I don't know how you feel about this, Dave, but I really like Thayer Munford a lot. There's still the unknown of, dude, how's he going to hold up against TCU? He may look great in practice. What happens when Dwayne Haskins is, looking to pass and some guy's clocking him in the chin? That's a concern. Brandon Bowen's coming off a serious injury. That's a concern. And Brady Taylor's a guy who's never played a snap that meant anything at Ohio State. So as good as we think Isaiah Prince is, we need to see Michael Jordan sort of take that next step to becoming a really top-tier guard. Need to see Bowen healthy. And Munford's doing it for the first time. So there's a lot of talent. I think they're going to be well coached. I think they're going to be largely successful. But I'm not sitting here thinking that this is a slobs part 3 or something, There's some ways to go in this. There's certainly question marks if you're being objective.
Yeah, I think the O-line is the second biggest question mark on the team. I think the biggest question mark is linebackers. Same question. Where's your confidence level as far as linebackers on a 1 to 10 scale?
Oh, geez. I never thought about this on a 1 to 10 because think about it this way. It's a bunch of young and inexperienced players who really haven't done much. Your most experienced player, arguably, is out for the year in Borland. And there's a coach that a lot of us are, there's the wafting stunk of nepotism that he's even the guy on the staff. So I would be extraordinarily concerned. This is the number one concern I have in the entire roster this year is the linebacking core. And again, it's not talent, but it's young, unproven players. I think who's our most veteran guy on this team? Malik Harrison right now. I mean, I liked Harrison from what I saw of him last year. But you have so many young guys that just haven't done it yet. And does anybody really trust, Urban Meyer's best friend to be the best linebacker coach at Ohio State that was available to us? We're going to see how it goes. But I have a lot of fear about seeing linebackers filling the wrong hole and, big runs getting busted on this team. Hopefully the D-line's dominant enough to cover for some of these issues. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put it at 3 right now. And that's my number one concern on this team with a bullet.
No doubt about it. We talked about the two biggest concerns on the team. Let's talk about a strength, running backs. Got J.K. Dobbins coming off a season. J.K. Dobbins rushed for over 1,400 yards, averaged 7.2 yards a carry. You have Mike Weber. You have DeMario McCall. You got the freshman. You got, Master Teague, and you got Brian Snead coming in as well. So they're stacked at running back. Just your thoughts on maybe how the carriers will break down and just your thoughts overall on the running backs' backs.
Well, for the love of God, if it's 3rd and 1, can we have Weber have the ball instead of Dobbins? If we're going to run a stretch to the outside on 1st and 10, can we make sure it's Dobbins on the field? As good as these guys are, I feel like the deployment to the running backs last year was one of the weirdest things I've seen. It didn't play to these guys' strengths, and the fact they had as much success as they did in spite of it is a compliment to them. But here's the thing. You don't have J.T. Barrett taking up 20 carries a game anymore on this team, thank God. And Dwayne Haskins, if he has more than 5 carries in any game, it's a problem. Or something really bad happened in pass protection and he kept taking off. I think you're going to see a guy like Mike Weber getting a lot more carries a game. And what do we complain about with J.K. Dobbins last year? Like you were making the reeling off his numbers there, and I was about to make a joke about, and he averaged 6 carries a game despite putting up all those numbers. So I hope both these guys average 15 touches a game or more. That's the way this offense could be. Absolutely vicious. This is the best tailback tandem in America. I mean that. I thought that last year, that they were every bit as good as the Georgia duo of Michelle and Chubb. And we're going to see this year. But I tell you what, Mike Weber, he's a guy that maybe I didn't give enough credit to. But when he finally got healthy last year and he showed that breakaway speed, he's a legit top-tier tailback. And we all know what Dobbins can do. And by the way, I haven't even said the words DeMario and McCall yet together, which when I say DeMario McCall just makes me smile because he's so good with the football. He's an afterthought as a guy carrying the ball right now because the two guys you have as your top 2 tailbacks. But McCall is a guy who's extraordinarily dangerous. He's going to do things this year. This backfield is so deep that a guy like Antonio Williams transferred to a school like North Carolina, where I think a lot of us expect he's going to start and do very well once he's eligible. So this is the strength of the team, is these running backs. And with the offense that I hope we see, these guys should be the ones getting the extra 20 carries a game that are vacated by J.T. Barrett. And if that's the case, then this offense is going to do very, very well.
I'd say strength of the team other than D-line.
You could argue either one, really. The D-line's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I think that Bosa and Young is one of the more terrifying sights you can see if you're a quarterback coming at you from the ends. And you have like 20 defensive tackles, and, well, it's a little bit of an exaggeration. You've got a ton of guys who can play well inside. But, you have 2 of the best tailbacks in the country. So, I don't think it's a stretch to say you have 2 NFL guys in the backfield for OSU, and you got a couple of NFL guys on the D-line. This is a good argument to have, really, because they got the best tailbacks in the Big Ten, and they got the best D-line maybe in the country.
Wide receivers. Let's end the show with this. This is kind of the wild card position group on the team in my estimation, and they're going to look a lot better with Dwayne Haskins after controls. I know you and I are in agreement on that. Let's break this group down. This is a very intriguing group backs. You look, they're very veteran. Even guys we think of as still kind of young, as Austin Mack and Ben Victor, are juniors now. But look at this group. So you got 3 fifth-year seniors that have played a lot of football, in Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin, Johnny Dixon. You got a 4th-year junior in K.J. Hill. You got another 4th-year junior. A lot of people think he's a senior. He's actually technically a 4th-year junior, C.J. Saunders, who I think needs to play a lot more football. The aforementioned Mack and Victor, who are quote-unquote true juniors. You have Jalen Harris, who I think could be kind of an up-and-coming guy as a sophomore. A lot of guys in the mix. Just what do you make of this wide receiving group?
I think they're all going to look a lot better when they can catch the ball in stride consistently. There's an answer for you right there. I think Haskins is going to make these guys look really good. But when you have a top-tier quarterback, you usually have one or two guys emerge as the elite guys that they just have that chemistry with, that they're always able to find and trust. And I feel like with the little bit we saw of Haskins, he always seems to take a look at Austin Mack. I think a guy like KJ Hill is going to have a strong year this year. I'm not that excited about Paris Campbell, but you give him the ball on a crossing pattern 5 yards downfield, and he can run past people, right? That was one of the big complaints we had about Campbell last year was that once he catches the ball, if you get it and hitting him in stride, nobody's going to catch him. I mean, he's a track star out there. And then you've got a guy like, you know how high I've been on Benjamin Victor now. I mean, both of us were at Friday Night Lights when I keep talking about the performance he put on all those years ago as a recruit. And there's a part of me that sees him, and I've said this in the past, he's like an A.J. Green kind of guy if he actually figures out what his ceiling is. And what if this is the year he figures out his ceiling? I mean, do you remember the teams that Deshaun Watson had at Clemson where he had multiple receivers that were just like complete terrors out there? That's Ohio State's ceiling with this group. The downside is that if I asked you who's the number one receiver, and then I pulled the front row who's going to be the number one receiver, we'd get 5 different answers because nobody knows. None of these guys have differentiated themselves. So there's a ton of talent, all of which I think is going to look way better with a more accurate quarterback throwing them the ball. But we don't know who that guy is that's really going to step up, you know? I mean, you mentioned Jalen Harris. Nobody's even talking about him. A lot of places he'd be like the, oh, my God, I can't wait to see that guy this year kind of player. Ohio State just has such an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position that we're not talking about him. I think right now it's just waiting to see, hey, which one of these guys is going to emerge as the top 1 or 2 targets for Haskins? Because there's enough talent that almost any of them could be the guy.
Great insights, as always, from Matt Baxendell. Thank you very much to the People's Champ himself. You can catch Bax's column every week on Bucknuts. It is The Bucket. Thanks again to Bax, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into this show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.